Ron, it's actually Wednesday today. We are live. How are you, sir?
Happy Wednesday. Happy October. It's good to be
Happy,
here.
happy October. Boy, oh boy, do we have some fun stuff to talk about today. Well, welcome if you're joining us live. We just went live, so probably no one yet. Actually, there is no one yet. But if you watch this later, thank you for joining Ron and I's Little Nessie weekly happy hour podcast where we talk about a whole lot of everything. You never know what we're going to talk about on any given podcast. But Ron, you are not in your home office again. You've had a little bit of a change to your travel plans.
That's right. I am in Honolulu right now, where it is 6:30 in the morning. But by the way, I did decide, in the spirit of happy hour, I did just go crack open a beer. Even though I
Well,
said I
cheers.
would
We got a
purposely do it.
cheers. So
Oh
happy,
yeah, yeah,
happy hour.
yeah. 6:30 in the morning before my workout. Cheers.
My man, my man. Well, hey, we've got, some good stuff to talk about today. It's only been 12 hours since our government shut down, but we're going to get into some topics, and that's where we're going to start with our first one. So we're going to start talking about the government shutdown. I think Ron, you brought some perspectives to me that I never really thought about before when it comes to the government shutting down, and I'm excited to learn from you uh, and curse the government out and go from there. But our next topic, we're going to be talking about what, Ron?
The Bank of America 2025 Insights Report, which has some pretty good insights into Gen Z, what they're thinking, their attitude, what their obstacles are to home ownership, and it's a nice tight report with a bunch of good visuals.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about the fading effect of the mortgage lock-in. We'll do a little bit with data, just saying what's the current vintages of rates, different rates, and what's the percentage of outstanding rate, and we'll also talk about also some mind shift changes for current homeowners. We last week the Compass Anywhere topic dominated the news, much like the rocket Mr. Cooper Redfin did in the previous quarters. Today we're going to switch. We're going to continue that conversation, but we're going to more focus on the mortgage side of it and just the scale and impact of their mortgage joint ventures.
Yeah. So that's our four main topics. And then I think we've got four rapid fire topics that are going to be fun. But again, thanks for joining us. And we're going to skip the section from the gut from Dave this week because we have just a tight schedule and we want to end within an hour. So we're going to skip that part. So no from the gut. So let's get right into our first topic. Let's talk about the government shutdown that just happened 12 and a half hours ago. Ron, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, let's just start by just saying what's the impact to mortgages and to home buying transactions. And so, first, the HUD's closed, which is a problem. The Veterans Affairs is closed for what we do. Department of Agriculture is closed, and that's probably the biggest thing is USDA, because if you do USDA loans, those loans actually have to get it certified by a USDA field office, and there is no lender has a covenant to fund without that. So if you don't already have that, those loans aren't going to close. And then, David, on top of that, and so there's all sorts of other issues. Getting verifications from the IRS may become difficult or may slow down. Any type of issue which you have to get any type of exception through the VA or through HUD is probably not going to happen. But there's another double whammy out there that you and I talked about, which is the National Flood Insurance Program, which is the NFIP, also sunset yesterday. So what that means is that FEMA cannot issue flood insurance right now. And so if you need flood insurance to close your loan, you can't get it. Period. And so those loans aren't going to be closed either. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on out there that everybody knows about. I don't know if everybody knows about the FEMA. The FEMA is a big deal, especially if you do business in the southern states, Florida, Texas. That's a really big deal. Northern California, you need that insurance to be able to close your loan. So those are all real problems that will slow down the market. Did you see, by any chance, did you see Bill Pulte's post yesterday on this,
I didn't.
David?
No.
So now, by the way, in my opinion, he posted on federal websites, which when when you work for the government, if you're a leader of a department, you cannot be political on your website. It's against the law. The law is called the Hatch Act, right? Now you can inform people, but you can't be political. Like you can't be totally slanted. So here's what he put though, on HUD's website. The radical left are going to shut down the government and inflict massive pain on American people unless they get their $1.5 trillion wish list of demands. The Trump administration wants to keep the government open for the American people, right? And because, as always is the case, Trump's strategy will be to hurt Democrats as much as he can with the shutdown. Matter of fact, his quote last night is shutdowns can be a good thing because you can exert maximum pain on your opponent essentially. And it's just like and so if you when Obama had shutdowns, what's the first thing he did? He closed down all the state parks. Why? Most of them are. I mean, there doesn't anybody working there.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
But because he thought that would hurt Republicans, right? That they were more, that their constituency would be more pissed off about it. And so, Trump is going to try to inflict the same. What's going to cause the most pain for the Democrats? Because when you have a shutdown, the president has unbelievable power to do stuff. But it's going to hurt housing, and I don't know if we're going to have the workarounds. And Trump has, pledged not to furlough people, just to fire them. So we'll have to see what all that means. I know you have strong views on this, David. What do you think?
Well, I've never really given it much thought, to be honest. Do we have one slide on this? I think we do. Um, yeah, here we go. So I've never really given it much thought because, as you can see here, the worst was back in uh, well, I guess the worst was 2018, 26 days, and then 1995. So, I mean, prior to 2018, it just seems like every time it came up, it was just a threat and then it never happened. And so I've really just kind of tuned it out because it seems like every administration, regardless of what side, it just seems like it happens twice per every 4 years or whatever, but then it never happens. So I've never really given it much thought, to be honest. Um, and I think that's why it pisses me off so much because it just seems like it's such a political shit show. And it just annoys me when either side does it. And it's just, they're, they're using it to get crap that, I don't know, Ron. I'm just so fed up with the government and in the political games that they play and how much it hurts people, everyday people. And I don't know. But I've never thought about it to the point of how much it impacts the mortgage industry and plenty of other industries. But explain this to me. Why? So you said USDA is going to be the one that gets hit the hardest, but why is USDA? Why isn't VA FHA loans affected as much as USDA?
Because at USDA, you actually have to get a manual certification from an underwriter in the field office from
Sure, but why
USDA.
aren't VA and FHA
You
loans?
because lenders have authority to approve and fund those loans without VA looking at them.
But why?
Instead they deal with. Well, because what happens VA with HUD, what they do is instead they hold the lender responsible for the loan. So, like if you screw it up, you're getting the loan back. You're going to own this loan and this problem, or you're going to have to fix this, right? Where USDA says, no, we don't trust lenders to make choices for us. We're going to personally sign off on every loan, and you can't fund it until you get our signature on it. And so, and there nobody has an exception to that.
What
It's
percent
just crazy.
of loans do USDA represent?
Not a lot, but it depends on what market
Five,
you're in. Some
seven?
markets 7%, 5%, but
Yeah,
some markets it could be as much as 15%. Uh, but it's just another part. Just another thing that's going to slow down the whole system.
right. And how much are VA FHA loans going to be slowed down?
It really depends. What happens, it just depends. It's those loans are largely automated. It's when you have a problem with the loan that you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to call the local office. And like, so say you have a borderline case and you want to review with the local hawk, right? You go, hey, would you guys accept this loan as is? You're not going to have that choice, so you're going to take less risk on that loan, right? Because a lot of times, if you're uncertain and you don't want to just get stuck, you might call the local hawk. The hawk's the one that oversees the mortgages in that in that territory, and you go, hey, here's a loan. Can you give me your feedback on this loan, right? And you guys accept how we're doing it? And you put those notes in the file, and that kind of protects you from when it gets audited down the road. There's other things that, let's say that you have an appraisal issue, or if you have which is a Tidewater with VA, right? That whole Tidewater process isn't automated, right? And when you do, or you do a reconsideration of value, all those things are things that you need them there. Now, those are small percentages, but what happens then, lenders will take less risk. They're going to make sure they have really good loans that they're going to go ahead and fund it because they have no protection.
So before we move on to the next topic, Bank of America insights, what's a main takeaway for loan officers today?
Well, the one thing I want to echo you, it seems that every time there's a government shutdown, it's purely politics, because nothing changes. It just, it's politics, and each side plays a bit of chicken, who can outmaneuver the other side and get the most political hay out of it. And it's so frustrating. It just doesn't seem to need to be. Uh, Here's the thing, it's not a big deal. It's going to affect, it really depends, Dave, because you got to say too, are we having any problems getting in our tax verifications or other, or things that we have to order through the IRS, right? And you never know. And the other thing is, by the way, even with all these things that we have automated, if something breaks, there's no one there to fix it. So let's say that, the way we pull automated case numbers, whatever it is, if that system breaks, there's no one there to fix it. And so it's just out. There's just, it's just like working without a net the whole way. I think the biggest thing that loan officer has to do is get in front of it and communicate with their clients about what the shutdown, what the potential impact could be on their particular situation. And most of those calls are going to be, you're going to have no impact, Mr. Jones. You're fully approved. We're fully authorized to complete this loan as is. You should have no impact on this, right? Or on the one, on the 2% of cases, there's a problem. You need to call the bar and go, there's a problem. And let's say you have a USDA loan and it hasn't been certified yet. The question becomes, who's going to cover the lock expense? Because you have a lock that's going to expire. Who pays for that extension? And most lenders will pay for the extensions. Like, okay, we'll go ahead or any extension related to the government shutdown, most lenders pay. And if you have a file that may be affected by that, you want to get in front of it, and then you can get a victory from that. But calling every one of your clients is super important, just to assuage their fears, even because they just don't know. They can go, oh my gosh, is my loan going to close? Am I going to buy my house? And so that's such a good call, outbound call right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very engaged in politics in the 2000s and the early teens, and then I just got so tired of it, and I intentionally just disengaged because I was so tired of the back and forth. And then I re-engaged, and I think I might be back to the point where I'm just about to just give up and not even pay attention anymore because I'm so tired of it.
I pay virtually no attention, and like proposed laws, I pay no attention until they're passed. They're passed. Like, I'm just not freaking out about something that isn't real yet. Just like we were talking about this shutdown, we didn't even have it on our list today because I didn't even think it was going to happen. We added it last night.
Yep, yep.
But
And yeah,
get ahead of your customer's fear and be a hero. That's what I would say.
there you go. Let's talk about Bank of America 2025 Insights Report. What do we got here, Ron?
There's three big things you want to focus on in this report, and they have wonderful visuals, things that you can adopt. The first thing is, what do potential home buyers see as obstacles to home ownership? What's their fears? What's the obstacles, real or imagined? And then it's really good to see, okay, are these real or imagined? If they're real, how can I solve them? If they're imagined, how can I better educate them to remove that fear? The second thing is, which is the most encouraging thing in the report, is what sacrifices are they willing to make to achieve home ownership? And the report's going to show they're willing to make a lot of sacrifices, which is great. And then the third thing is to see what are their sources of education? Where do they go to learn, to get advice? because you want to be aware of that because you need to meet them where they are. And so those are the three key points from the report. And I think we have visuals on each one of them to kind of help show what we're talking about. This is good job increasing this, right? And so this is about those people that have delayed buying a home. Here's the reason why. One, 63% think that their home prices are going to fall, and so they're waiting. Half of them think interest rates are going to drop, so they're waiting. And then 38% are trying to increase their savings or income. So if you look at these three things, right, the lower home prices is probably imaginary. I mean, the whole entire market is going to be flat this year, maybe slightly up. Now, there are some markets that might drop a couple percentages points, but it's not worth waiting to try to get a 1% benefit. And the thing we have to be telling it's with this and the next lower interest rates, like those are irrelevant. Right now, you're in the sweet spot to buy a home. There's the most inventory we've had in a long time. There's the fewest buyers. There's the most concessions going on. You're in the sweet spot. If interest rates were actually to drop, that would bring a whole bunch of buyers into the market with pent up demand, which is going to drive prices up. It's an economic fact. Interest rates go down, home prices go up. It happens time and time again. As especially we saw when interest rates were zero, home prices went up 56%. And so those two things are those are imaginary. Those are education. That's a calling to us go educate these home buyers. But then the last one is increased savings or income. That is a real obstacle, and so that's something we have to help solve. Can we help solve it with the loan program that allows less down payment? Can we solve the income issue? Okay, you may not be making enough today to comfortably make your payment, so let's do some buy downs. Let's maybe have a seller buy down or a builder to buy down, or even a buyer. Let's do a buy down, make it affordable for the next couple of years while you wait for your income to go up. So the first two are imaginary. The last one of these is real, and all those things we have to help solve.
Yeah, that last one,
I
they're
like,
waiting until they have more savings or income.
yes.
Wow.
But with David, on a previous survey we showed something like 80% of borrowers don't know how much money they need to buy a house.
Yeah.
Like they're completely clueless. So I mean, we have to educate them on that too, and then solve. Like, okay, here's a budget. Where are we at?
I wonder,
What
I wonder how much that's changed now just in the last 6 months with AI,
yeah, we're
where
going to talk
people
about
are. Go
these numbers are improving to your point, and we're going to talk about AI in about two slides.
on. Gotcha. All right, let's move on to the next one.
This is a little teeny tiny one, and I'm sorry because I think I did that. This is just how the attitudes have changed over the last 3 years, and it's for each one. So, and the first one is it a good time to buy, right? And you can see that today 60% think it's a good time to buy, and then the second one says, is the home buying market better today than a year ago? And 52% say yes, that's great. And then, but then when you go to the last one, home buyers that think expect prices or interest rates to fall, 75% think that prices are going to fall in interest rates. That's just a misnomer. And so this is pretty just repeating what we just talked about, David.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
education is the main thing. Yeah, where are home prices at this year? It's almost flat. It might be like up 0.5%, or sorry,
Yeah, exactly.
0.05%.
The national median price is going to be like somewhere between 0 and 0.5. I mean,
Yeah,
it's really negligible.
right,
Now, there are some markets like Miami and markets in the South that might have a 10% decline in overpriced markets like Austin, but that's the exception, not the rule.
right. Yeah. Let's take a look at the next one. You said this is where we're going to talk about AI? No, the
No,
next one.
no, and two. We'll go really quick with this. So, why they delay their purchase? Prospective buyers identify top three actions they're working on. The first is saving. The second is paying off existing debt, and then the third, I don't understand this, is investing in stocks and bonds. That's the Gen Zer in you because Gen Zs today see the stock market like just like a casino, And they're like, if I can just go buy the next Bitcoin, I can put $10 into the stock market and I can then get all the down payment I need. I would personally counsel my clients against that, but I would continue to help them work on the first two. And do they have a? And the other thing is, let's say you have 100 home buyers and 52% of them are saving so they can afford a home, or 38% of them are paying off debt. Do they have a actual structured plan on how to do that and what's the best way to do it? And we need to make sure that if that's what our clients are delaying for, that we're helping them and being a really good coach and leader to get them to the start line faster.
I think we talked about this a little bit last week or the week before with Gen Z and the fact that more people are renting now instead of buying because they want to invest more, whether it be stocks,
Yeah.
bonds, or elsewhere. Um, I'm not sure if I hate that strategy.
Well, the thing is that a growing percentage of Gen Zers are seeing the stock market as a better path to wealth than home ownership.
Right. Do you disagree with that? It is a bit of a gamble.
Um, well, I think you have to do both, and there's a timing on each of them, and so it's just like, it's so funny, David. They think they've missed out on the opportunity of massive appreciation in housing, but yet they've seen the same type of appreciation in the stock market and it excites them.
Yeah.
Like, does that make any sense? And the other thing is, David, for most of them, if you go and buy a stock, you take $100 and you get $100 worth of stock. And so if it's a 5% return, you just got $5. If you buy $100 in a house and you put 10% down, you got $1,000 in housing. And so if you get a 5% increase on that, it's $50. Which return would you rather have?
Right. I
Because they
want
don't have leverage in the stock market.
I wonder what percent of renters this is random. I wonder what percent of renters, if you take out, you know, college kids, 20-year-olds, people just getting started, and if you only include renters of single family homes, single family residences that are of average home price, so let's say 450,000 home in today's value, I wonder what percentage of renters fill up that space.
What percentage of renters live in single family housing rentals? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I think I'm asking this because the younger generation, the people that are investing instead of investing in stock market or whatever, um, I'm just curious what percent of renters are living in an average single family household and not take out apartments and condos and that kind of thing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's roughly 15%.
Is it
And I can't tell you if it's Gen Z, but today 15% of the market is built to rent
right?
or commercially owned. So it's
Yeah,
about 15%.
gotcha, gotcha.
Now the question is, do you think Gen Z represents a bigger percentage of that than say, millennials? I don't know that answer.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
And we got one more slide on this.
we got two, and we'll be really quick. Um, no, Yeah, this one's really interesting. This is the part we won't spend a lot of time on it. But what this slide essentially says is that Gen Z and millennials are willing to make sacrifices. They're not all Pollyannish, which is great. That if you give them a plan that they trust and believe in, they'll make the sacrifices to achieve home ownership. And that's the positive message. See, the first part of the story is what their fear is and why they don't want to move forward. But the second part, the more powerful part of the story is, but if you show them the way, they'll sacrifice to achieve home ownership, which I found very encouraging. And and that number is growing. The people that are willing to sacrifice is growing, not shrinking. So I really like that number. And I know we're short of time, so we're not spending a ton of time on this, but I was enthused by that number.
Yeah.
And this is something that's super important that we all gotta kind of understand. This is, where do Gen Zers get their information from? And you can see that here 37% of Gen Zers, prospective home buyers, believe that AI will help them better understand the home buying process in the future.
I'm cu-
Yeah,
interested that
and
it's
then
only 37%.
yeah, and then 40% think it's the most valuable resource in buying a home.
Also interested that it's only 40% and not larger.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think and maybe McKenna can comment this, but Gen Zers spend their time using AI on other things.
What might those other things be, Ron?
Let's ask McKenna. But I'm not sure it's financial literacy, but it's still encouraging. It's encouraging, and so when I remember, I can't remember I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember who it was. It was a top loan officer, and he starts his journey with his potential clients by asking them where do they get their information up to now, and how comfortable they are they using AI. Because if he knows that they've been using AI, he has a really good guess what AI told him, right? And so then he can kind of meet them where they are and then build on what AI said and differentiate. But it's a question we have to start asking, I think, every single one of our clients. Hey, where have you got your home buying information so far? And are you comfortable using AI? And have you used your AI tool in your home, education process? Because I think we can then better understand who our clients are, as well as match what type of technology we offer them, right? To serve them. Because if they're totally into the AI world, then we give a really AI, based platform, that AI visible platform. We got to make sure that they're comfortable with it.
The only thing I know that McKenna has used AI for extensively is to help her be a dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons.
As a
I'm
work.
I'm not sure if dungeon master is a correct term, but I think it is. But yeah, for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. So just interesting. It's an interesting report. These are good visuals. If, like we say with real estate agents or loan officers, if you're doing presentations, lunch and learns, if you're doing consultations, like use some of these totally beautiful made slides in your in that presentation. You can also repost them online and speak to it authentically. Like if you're speaking to this, if you did a post in LinkedIn just on this one thing, AI, you can then support it or make a comment, or give a educational piece on how you might use AI, and it would be really really good.
Yeah. Let's talk about the mortgage rate lock-in effect.
Yeah. So what happened, David? Even a couple of years ago, something like 75% of all homeowners had an interest rate of 5% or less, and it was like 30% were 3% or less, and 20% were 4% or less. And the idea was that those people would never sell their home or refinance because their interest rate was just too good, and so they were locked into home ownership. And what the article that we're going to quote today, what it was saying is, look, the lock-in effect is weakening because the percentage of people that have a 5% or lower interest rate is now south of 60%. And by the way, a 15% change is gigantic. That's millions of homeowners that now don't have that lock-in effect. And so that the lock-in effect is weakening and will continue to weaken. And then secondly, that they said even with these borrowers that have these lower interest rates, they no longer can hold off doing whatever they have to do, whether they need to upsize or downsize a home. It's no longer, it's no longer worth keeping that 3% interest rate, especially if you look at if you're somebody who needs to sell and buy a home. And we just talked about how we're getting to the sweet spot for buyers. Well, for the sweet spot for buyers applies for sellers that are selling their home. Like now's the time to go buy, and so you get the optimal purchase. And it's okay if you give up that 3% because it's a better opportunity now to buy versus when homes are appreciating at 10 or 15% when interest rates get driven down. So the whole mindset. And the other thing is the pent up need to access that cash. Cash out refis have been the portion of our volume that's been driven in the refi sector, not rate and term. And so there's a lot of people that have seen that that $17 trillion in equity, and they want to get to it, and they're no longer can wait. And line of credit or second is no longer sufficient because they need to draw out more than that line of credit would allow. And that's what the article speaks to. And I think we got a slide here, just from that article.
The let me comment on this real quick. I wonder how much optics just have to do with it. Because when I moved from North Carolina to California, I went from, I forget what my interest rate was in North Carolina. I think it was in the threes. And when I moved to California, I got a 4 and 3/4, and I was just mad at the world because I had to pay as much as 4 and 3/4. And I moved back to South Carolina, and now I'm locked in at a 2.375. And so I just think about it now when I moved to California and how mad I was that I had to get a 4.75 interest rate. And what people are feeling now in the with the low to mid sixes or so, it's how much optics have to do with it, or just your recent experience and your recent rates, and
Yeah, I feel that was a formal. I feel that was a humble brag there, Dave.
how is that a humble brag?
I have a 2.375%
Oh,
interest rate.
to say what I've got now? Gotcha. No, I was just lucky.
Yeah, there's a recency bias. It's so funny because we a podcast a couple weeks ago we talked about how 70% of millennials and Gen Zers think interest rates are at a whole all-time high, and that interest rates are too high, are going to come down. And the truth is they're 1% below their 50-year average. You know,
Yeah,
they're not at an all-time high. Now, the recency bias, I mean, they're not 2.375, and that's our bias. But a 6%, 6.25% interest rate. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculously good historically. We
right.
just have to, and that's another thing that that recency bias is weakening the further we get away from it. And so that's another thing that's going to help propel the purchase market.
Yeah. So what do you think what is, do you think it's under 6 where we're going to see a massive increase?
There's been different studies on what the tipping point is to really release that pent up demand. It's definitely under 6 right now. For a while, we thought it's 5.5. I don't think it has to be 5.5. You get to 5 and 3/4, you're going to see a ton of activity. We already see when the rates are down to 6.25, we've seen a huge spike in applications.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that we have to convince buyers, they're thinking rates are going to continue to drop. I think they're actually going to go up, and we got to be really careful of the advice that we're giving them.
Right. Right. What's this next slide?
That was just showing the concentration by interest rate. So where I said, back in 2022, 85% of people had a 5% or less. Today that's 70%. So that's 15% of the market have moved away from that lock-in. That's great.
Hmm. Do you have another slide on this one?
Nope.
All right. Let's move on to our last one, Compass Anywhere.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I don't think it was widely reported. It only recently getting news, but um, rate used to be guaranteed rate has JVs with both Compass and Anywhere. Now they have various JVs at Anywhere because Anywhere has several brands: Century 21, Better Homes and Garden, Cochrane. They got 6 huge brands, but inside of that, they have these 3 really big JVs that if when they're combined, they have a $9 billion a year volume, which would make them number 26 IMB in the country. Really interesting, right? So we don't pay attention. We only think about what's the impact on the real estate, but they also just created a massive IMB through their JV, and you had the logo of the 3 JVs are the most prominent ones right now with with Affinity Rate and Origin Point, and then I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. But it's something to pay attention to. And here's the other thing: if Anywhere is a very, very big real estate company. They have 240,000 real estate agents in the United States. I think 360,000 around the globe. But the one thing about Anywhere brands is that they are I don't want to say they accommodate, but they allow outside lenders, to have partners with their real estate agents. So they don't absolutely handcuff the real estate agent to inside services or affinity services. But Compass is ruthless about capturing that business. And so if you're dealing with one of these Anywhere companies and you're an outside loan officer and that's your best agent, you now have to completely up your game because Compass is going to absolutely do everything they can to get that real estate agent to use their internal loan officer. And by the way, and because of that, David, you and I have seen some of the best loan officers in the country move to rate JV so that they could service their real estate agents that went to Compass. you know, I mean, those are things you got to look at. How am I gonna be able to retain? If you have a top agent, especially top agent, how am I gonna be able to retain that top agent, that referral partnership with them? Well, how do I become overwhelmingly more valuable than all the benefits that the broker is going to offer them to use the in-house services, including increased commission splits, higher expense, dollars, more marketing dollars, might be it might be priority leads, stuff like that. How are you going to offset that? What are you going to do to maintain that relationship? And it's just something to pay attention to.
How many do you think that Compass is going to force all of the Anywhere brand real estate agents? Do you really think they're going to be heavy-handed on that one?
They won't in the beginning because they're going to try to prevent as much any breakage as possible. So I think in the 6 month transition, they won't, but once they get through the initial transition and the agents move onto Compass's platform, which is really a superior, technology platform, and they kind of just see all. I think Compass is an excellent company, and they offer a really strong engine. And once they get those Anywhere agents, on board on that engine, and they buy in, and they drink the Kool Aid, then they're going to start squeezing them down. Like, hey, you want to do it the Compass way, you use our Compass services, and then they'll really start to play hardball. Yeah, I
How
absolutely do.
how are they as far as service goes compared to other top mortgage companies?
How are the JVs?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're excellent. I mean, because Rate has a fantastic platform, and we don't realize it, but Guaranteed Rate has probably one of the stronger technology platforms. They have great marketing, and they open all that to their affinity partners. You get all that juice, and the thing is, they also let the affinities. They do operate separately, so it's really about who's the CEO of that or president of that affinity group, and they hire top talent. I mean, they do a good job. You
Yeah.
know, the challenge has always been on some of Rate's JVs is, can you get qualified, really good loan officers, and will they work the account really hard,
Right.
right? Because working at JV sucks. I worked JVs for quite a few years at the beginning of my career, and like, you're sitting in the middle of this real estate office. Let's say there's 100 agents. The 5 agents do 85% of the business. They're not using you. They got their own partners, and so you're trying to work with all the bottom feeders that just take all of your time and never close loans. And then they're the highest maintenance possible. It's a sucky job. But I Guaranteed Rate, what they've done really well, the affinity, the JVs, is that when they get a top agent, they really get that agent's loan officer to join the JV, and so then that's how they get around it. That's how they win that real estate agent's loyalty and business. And there's tremendous pressure to do that, like we've seen, David, like we've seen with some people we work with.
Yeah, I've been involved with a couple of JVs in supporting them from a marketing standpoint. And I've just never seen on a big scale where the loan officers love working at the JV because there's so many, so many other issues that they have to deal with when they just go with, the main company.
Yeah, including reduced pay.
Right.
But David, I've seen some loan officers that work a JV account, a big account, and if they do the right thing, they can really enjoy it. One thing is, like, let's say you're working in the middle of a Century 21 office. Well, you got to put on the gold coat, and you got to drink the Kool Aid. You got to go to everyone. You got to act like you're on their team. You got to be in their community. You have to exemplify their culture. You have to be completely involved. And once feel like you're now on their team and on their family, then it becomes a really good gig. If it's a good company, right? Now, if it sucks, you don't want to do that. But if you can acclimate yourself into their culture and everything, it's good, and it can be fruitful. You can get a mediocre loan officer that gets into a good account. Also, they're doing 20, 30 deals a month, right? And they're doing with people they really love and a company they like. Then it's fine.
Do they actually still wear the gold coat, or is that just a marketing thing, brand thing?
No, they don't wear it. I haven't seen one.
I haven't either, not in real life. Well, let's move on to unless you got any last words on that, let's move on to our
No.
rapid fire topics. And our first one is all about Uber.
So, David, this one had I put this here for a few reasons, and I know when we pick rapid fire topics, I try to pick stuff that one you can get off on, and then two that are really interesting, and then but you always challenge me, how does this relate to mortgage? And the thing that is just amazing here is how much business Uber does, right? And we were talking about it in 2018. Uber did 1.1 billion trips, right, in 2018. In Q2 of this year, they did 3.27 billion trips, whether for food or rides, in one quarter. Like, how crazy is that? I mean, super crazy. And the thing here is, so they're rolling out a new plan, and because they're being criticized of being super expensive, right? And they're starting to lose a little bit of business because they're too expensive. And so they're going to go. They're going to do one thing. They're going to do. They're going to do bulk pricing or bulk tickets. So if you take Uber to go to the grocery store, you do it every day. What they're going to do is they're going to sell you 20 trips at like 50% off. In order to lower the price, it also then guarantees them business, and so they're going to start doing that. And then the second thing they're doing, which is I think phenomenal, they're going to partner with local restaurants to come up with meals for like $15, including the Uber fee. And so they'll have specials every day, let's say from your local pizza place or pasta place or your Chinese place, and they'll advertise, here's today's $15 special, and that's delivered, and that they think that's going to really, really drive business, and that this is really going to drive that 3.3 billion number up. And then, David, the last thing I'll comment, because I can't wait to get your comments on this. The thing is, if you try to relate it to mortgage, I saw a great cartoon, it was inside one, and it said, is it that houses are too expensive, or that you're spending too much money on your limousine for your burrito? You know, what's the real challenge here? So, what do you think?
I 100% believe that's a major part of why the perception is that homes are too expensive right now. I think that's a major factor, that just lifestyles are drastically different than they were 8 years ago.
Yeah, the cost of your cost of living for the lifestyle you want is dramatically more expensive, but you've also given yourself a lot of luxuries.
Yep.
It's like we used to say 20 years ago: you want to buy a house, quick, go to Starbucks and spending $5 every day.
Hmm.
You know, well, same thing. You want to buy a house, quit going paying $15 at Starbucks every day, and quit getting your burrito delivered by the limousine. You
Right.
know, you probably saving up to afford a house.
Yeah. Now, just to clarify, the bulk pricing is that, I think you said that has to be the same route. It's only if you do the
Yes,
same route each time. How many, I wonder
yes.
how many people that's going to be a reality for. How many people take Uber to the same place every single day?
Yeah. Uber to the airport,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Probably the most common.
Yeah,
Uber to a sporting event. Uber to
true.
the bar on Friday. Uber like Scottsdale to Old Town.
Yeah, I don't go to the bar on Friday, Ron.
Well, I'm certainly not Old Town. That's that's some dangerous stuff.
Yeah. Let's talk
But you know
about
what I mean.
Let's talk about airports.
Yeah, I was trying to do that segue. This is interesting, David. It's the most popular or the best airports by customer survey, and it's interesting in two ways because we probably have clients that pick the city they live in by how good the airport is, right? I know definitely there's people that would not move out of Orange County because they love John Wayne Airport, which is really really a great airport. And similarly, if I lived in Florida, just based on airports, I'd rather live in Tampa than in Jacksonville or in Miami. And so it's pretty interesting. And then we of course have a lot of the people that would watch this fly a lot, and I'm curious what they think. Do they agree with these findings? I was surprised by a couple of them. How about you?
I'm not surprised by John Wayne. That is my favorite airport. I
Yeah,
love that airport. That was my home airport when I lived in California. We were only about 20 minutes from it, 30 minutes or so, and love that. But let's scroll to the bottom. There's none that really truly stick out to me. Yeah, there's none in here that I've really frequented. Actually, there's very
Yeah,
few, if any, that I've been through. So now, um,
yeah. I will say I really like Palm Springs, but I think it's too small to hit to hit this. And I equally think that you know Minnesota, Minneapolis airport is one of my favorites.
yeah. What are some of the worst airports?
The very worst airport is Dallas by far.
What?
I'd go.
Really?
Yeah, well, there's all sorts of reasons. One, it's super old. Two, it has, I think, the most um, long delays because of weather. And because it's a hub, you fly through there, yet you have so many high cancellations, and it's so screwed up, and it's such an old airport, and it's hard to get around. I put Dallas number one. I don't love Atlanta, which is the busiest airport in the world. It's just a complete zoo there, and I kind of put two. I don't like Miami. I don't like Miami too much because whenever you're at Miami, if you're a business traveler like we are, you can really enjoy a flight full of business travelers because they kind of got the whole rhythm down and the cadence. But it seems like half the people from Miami have never flown before. They're trying to bring in six giant trunks onto the plane and three dogs. We last time we went to Miami, David, we counted. We didn't couldn't count them all. 37 dogs on the plane.
Dogs?
37 dogs on the plane. 37.
Oh my gosh. How did we able to count those? Because you've got status, so you usually sit towards the front.
We were we were sitting in the front and we counted them on the way by.
Oh, count them on as they came on. Gotcha. That's insane.
And I'm not talking all lap dogs. Like there was like a lab, that by the way the lady had to have sit under her seat, like under the seat in front of her, like where you would put your backpack. And here's the thing, like I'm thinking, okay, nonstop, right? That poor dog, 5 hours in the air. How long was it in the airport? When's the last time I went to the bathroom?
Yeah. I wonder if there was a dog show or something like that.
I don't know. I've never seen it, but it's crazy. And then of course, going back to Miami, you get 30 people that take a wheelchair into the airplane and one that takes one off.
I wish I had this clip on standby to show, but I just thought about it. But there's a clip that I saw on social media where it's at an airport and it's a woman talking about, I don't know if she ran the airport, the CEO, whatever, but she was talking about all the money that they've invested to improve the customer experience and all of that stuff. And the cameraman, have you seen this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
I think the caption said the cameraman knew what he was doing. And as she's talking about all this money they've spent to improve the airport, the guy just pans upwards and you can see all the flights. And there's about 30, 40 flights or so. And probably 70% of them just says delayed, 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 delayed. The cameraman knew what he was doing.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't necessarily love your home airport.
No, I don't either. I used to really like it. It just seems they've been undergoing construction now for gosh, 8 years or something. And I'm curious to see what it's gonna like and see what it's gonna be like and if there is gonna be an improvement once they're done with it. But wait, if you check a bag at all, forget about it. You're waiting a good 40 minutes to get it.
Yeah, yeah, and I've spent a lot of time sitting on the tarmac there, waiting for a gate to open. It's
Hmm.
like they like somehow they have AI has to come to gate management. I'm sorry, folks, we're going to be on the tarmac for 60 minutes while we wait for a gate to open.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, our
are you
next
kidding
rapid
me?
fire topic, good luck with tying this into housing or mortgage. But America's
No,
favorite punctuation marks, maybe you can.
but David, I thought you could have this as your from the gut today because this is completely applicable. Hopefully, if you're a real estate agent or your loan officer, you're extensively using AI. The question is, to what degree do you need to mask that, or do you mask it? And what this is, this study here is like, what punctuations do Americans actually use, and how does that compare to what AI uses? Like that M dash, nobody in history has ever used that before AI. And so you have the M dash throughout something you publish. Let's say it's on social media post or you're in an article or something, well, you know that AI wrote that for you. If you have little memes like the green checkbox, you know that AI wrote that for you. I mean, there's just a million tells. And so, should you disguise it, or does that make your whatever you wrote better? And so, what this says is how often do you use the different types of punctuation. Now, I'm not too sure that only 72% of people use periods. Like, I'm not sure what the rest of them are doing. Just as a one
No,
long run-on sentence.
that's it.
Like,
That's definitely a real thing, and that's the new way of writing, especially with younger generations. I wish we had McKenna on here because she could verify this, but they rarely use periods.
yeah. I mean, that's amazing. That's a whole other story. But so then, if that's what let's say you match what very often, and yet AI doesn't match that with you, is it authentically you? And is it better that you start to use periods? I don't know. I've always used a lot of hyphens. I did. It's a strunk and white. Elements of style. But the M dashes, those are brutal.
Yeah, I don't think the green checkbox is only AI, Ron. That's
No, no. The green checkbox. How many people are using that before AI?
I so I've had a lot of copywriters work for me, and it's a thing. I don't think that's a
I
strictly the only one that is strictly that I've seen with AI is the M dashes. I don't even know how to create that on my keyboard.
Yeah. But by the way, David, I'm willing to accept what you said. A lot of copywriters do that, or using CapCut or something. But that's not. I mean, that's a small percentage of the population, posting stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a difference between just everyday people posting stuff and writing a caption versus a marketing team with copywriters and all that kind of stuff. There's a difference there.
I can't even tell you where I could get that green box with the check mark in it. Like, it's not in my Word, right? I mean, where the hell would I get that?
Okay.
But ChatGPT craps it out all the time.
I'm going to, all right, I'm going to do a live test right now. All right, Ron, pick up your phone real quick.
Right?
Look
Got
what I
my
just
phone.
sent. Look what I just sent to Ron.
What did he send? Yeah. See, I don't know where you get you get AI to give that to you. Where do you get that?
No, no, your phone will just if you type a word that correlates to an emoji, it'll give you that as a recommendation. All I typed is when I texted you was checkbox, and it gave me a recommended emoji. So I think you're showing your
David,
age here, Ron.
well, I've never got a recommended emoji because I outlawed them from my. I've never used an emoji in my life.
Wow,
And
dang,
sometimes it's so awkward. I might even send you something like I go, this would be where I'd put a smiley emoji if I used emojis. Like they're trying to like soften my tone. Like when you like say something totally you're a jerk, and you can put a smiley face to try to soften it. I'm like,
yeah,
well, this is where I'm trying to get you to understand I'm not being mean.
yeah.
By sticking a smiley emoji.
No, you're not that much older than me, Ron, but the way you communicate via text is very similar. I hope this doesn't offend you. I already said you're not that much older than me. I think about 12 years older than me. But the way you communicate reminds me very much of my mom because I was chatting with her just the other day, and she got a text message from someone. It was very short and very just straight to the point. And my mom she wasn't sure how to read it. She wasn't sure she wasn't sure if she should take offense to it because it was very short and just to the point. I was like, Mom, that's exactly how you text. I've never seen you use an emoji. I've never seen you use LOL or something like that. And you're just very matter of fact and to the point when you text. So yeah, generations are
Yeah, no,
different. And my
I have to
daughter,
do.
my daughter,
Yeah,
I'll end on this one, Ron. Sorry, I didn't know I was going to talk about this one this much, but my
I told you
daughter,
this is great.
my daughter gives me crap on this one as well because it became pretty common to abbreviate OK just to the letter K. And, I thought, hey, that's how the youngins talk these days. So I'll just type K. But then all of a sudden, 2 years ago or whatever, that's all of a sudden not okay to use to abbreviate OK to just the letter K because they think that you're mad at them. And so it just changes over time, and different generations communicate differently, especially over text.
If somebody sent me a K, I would think it was a strikeout. I'm like, who got a strikeout? You know, I've never used an abbreviation in my text. I use complete sentences. I always use proper punctuation. You know,
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with our last rapid fire on unemployment.
no, it's not on unemployment. It's on unemployment. It's such a
Or,
good segue because we're talking about young people, and what this article said. This is such a good article, and it was from the Wall Street Journal, and it was today's youth is unemployable, but today Gen Z is unemployable. And what they did is this professor, I think it was an economics professor. He did these exhaustive surveys, and he surveyed employers. What are the three traits that you're looking for in a new employee? And it was overwhelming what the three traits were, right? And then they went to the Gen Zers and what are the three things you're looking for a job, and what do you not want in a job? Well, the exact things the employer was looking for is what they didn't want, and the things that they wanted is what the employer didn't want. And it was something like, I don't know if we got the graph or not. It was something like only 5% of Gen Zers were employable to meeting what the hiring manager is actually looking for, which was just hilarious.
yeah, I don't think I have many comments on this one because I might get into trouble. But it
You
just
know, the biggest gap was,
what?
I'm so sorry. What hiring managers want, what they've termed work centrism, which essentially can be translated in that they actually care about their work. And Gen Zers, what they wanted the least is having to care about their work. And so
Yeah,
we wonder why they're getting replaced by machines. I don't understand, by AI. It just hmm, explain that to me.
I don't know. It does seem that every generation is different, and every generation talks crap about the younger generation or whatever. But it does seem like younger generations have way more demands on their employers than we used to. They used to.
100%, which is
Yeah.
what the caption was for that cartoon we saw. But the three things that employers were looking for, in case you're curious, was achievement, and then was scope, and then work centrism. And scope is the willingness to learn, to take action, to be curious, right? And so those are all on the bottom of the list for the Gen Zers.
It's also, I'm not sure if we talked about this on the previous week or not, but I remember a chart that showed what each different age group thought was a successful salary. Did we have that on a slide, or is that just something I'm remembering that I saw one time?
Uh, I think we did that on a post, David. We might have been on it might have been in an early podcast. We definitely talked about expectations, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't remember the numbers, but what a Gen X thinks is a successful salary was maybe $80,000, and then the youngest generation. I'm not. Is there a younger one, younger than Gen Z? I
No,
think
I think Gen Z is all we talk about. Although I think the new babies are not Gen Zs, or something else now.
right. I think there's another named generation younger than Gen
Yeah,
Z, but I think the Gen Z successful salary
isn't
for
it Gen
them
Zero?
was something like that. Was I don't know. It was a ridiculous amount. I don't remember the numbers, but
I
the
agree.
younger the generation, the more that they were thought that a successful salary was. I think it was up in the $400,000 per year, something like
Yeah,
that. Gen Alpha, Gen Alpha.
My name is
Gen
David Flatner,
Alpha.
and this year I'm speaking at
Whoops, I'm not sure what I hit a button on my keyboard and something started playing.
There, dude.
Anyway,
David, this has been great today.
yeah, I enjoyed it. If you've been watching us, we appreciate you following. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, reach out to us, and let us know if you enjoy our comment or enjoy our content. So with that, go have fun in the sun, Ron. Enjoy Hawaii.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thanks for being flexible. Oh yeah, we have to do cheers.
Got to
I haven't really
cheers.
got into
Happy
this warm
Wednesday.
beer here.
Happy Wednesday. We'll see
Happy.
you next Thursday, probably when we go live. So cheers.
Is
See you
it
next week.
Wednesday? It's like every day. Every day is Saturday right now.
All right. See ya.
See you guys.